Hello, hello, hello. Assalamu alaikum. Ji ayanu, pakhair agale, ni hao, chune shumme, washmale, ohaya gazaimus, guten morgen, hola, bonjour, privyet. Hi, hugs and hellos, and a very amazing Khush Ahmadid alongside Kaifa Hal. Thank you very much for joining us on PTV World. You are watching World This Morning alongside Maha Makhdoom and Shazad Khan. Hello, Maha. Good morning. How are you?
Hello, Shazad. Assalamu alaikum. I'm very well. Today it's been a very busy week. As you know, we had the discussion about the mechanics yesterday.
Exactly.
So I spent the whole day trying to get that sorted. And in the end, obviously, my father got agitated with me, even though I was saying the right things. But he'll discover that by himself when he drives a car, when he comes back to
Okay, but let's decide. Why was he agitated? What did you say?
Because I said that the works haven't been done, but the money has been paid. So he was very confused. Why did I pay for it if the work hadn't been done?
Yeah.
And I realized, I was like, well, until I got the car back, I wasn't able to see what work was done, and they wouldn't release the car until I gave the money. So I was in a catch-22. So obviously, whatever I did wasn't right.
Well, I certainly never wanted to bring this up as well, but I told you yesterday that, it's not a woman's thing to go to the mechanic.
I didn't go. The work didn't get done because I didn't go and I couldn't watch over them.
It was just for the laughter early in the morning. But ladies and gentlemen, it's about time that we go and check out what's happening in the world. All right, labeling me as a stereotype. Yeah. That's not good. Let's go. Top stories coming up. Former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif has appeared before Accountability Court today in Islamabad, as court will be hearing references against Sharif family filed by National Accountability Bureau.
A meeting of the Parliamentary Task Force on Sustainable Development Goals held in Islamabad with the State Minister for Information, Maryam Aurangzeb, in the chair, addressing the round table conference. Maryam Aurangzeb said education is the top priority of the current government.
Which is indeed.
It is. And I think someone forgot that punctuation, so we do need education.
A freight train to use a new direct China-Europe train route for the first time started its journey from Wuhan, the capital of central China's Hubei province, bound for Tours in France.
And Pakistan leading all-rounder Mohammad Hafiz has undergone a biomechanics test in England for his suspected bowling action in the recently concluded one-day series with Sri Lanka.
Whereas in Lahore, thick smoke continues to grip most parts of Punjab as residents of province face health and transportation problems. See, I gave a public service message the other day. And talking about cricket, well, I certainly want to do that because of the fact that, yesterday it was all over the news that Virat Kohli, who was the Indian team captain, has been using a walkie-talkie on the pitch.
What?
Isn't it alarming? Well, I think certainly it wouldn't be the first time, but this is the first time that they've actually got their hands onto somebody. Well, he's just accused as of now, but let's see what's going to happen. But Virat Kohli, but ICC is saying that, that the walkie-talkie is allowed. Well, how can that certainly happen? And this
how is the walkie-talkies allowed on the field? Well, so you can talk to the person on the other end?
Or probably, you can fix the matches you want to.
Ooh, controversial. But let's find out. Investigations are taking place, so we'll find out what's happening with the sport.
Exactly.
But now, let's move on to our public service message. And today, Shazad will be taking the reins.
All right, I'll do it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, since it's my duty today to give out a public service message, so I obviously have to come up with a message which I'm not guilty of. So usually what I do is that, for example, since the winters are here and you've been seeing me, quite a lot of people have actually commented on me wearing my jumpers as well on the show. And it is cold over here now in Islamabad. We are
the AC is miraculously working finally.
Yeah, so the only thing which I make sure at my home is that, for example, because we know that there is a gas shortage in our country, so obviously everybody needs warm water to take a shower with. So what I do is once everybody is done taking shower early in the morning, we just slow down the geyser as well so that we do not waste any gas and it can be useful for somebody else who's living right next to us as well. So please make sure that you preserve all of these natural resources, because if you're not going to do that, I don't think that in years to come we'll be will have the liberty to take a shower with warm water.
And
as
then we
well.
can't complain later on in life, because if we haven't played our part, then we cannot be sitting there whining and crying
Exactly,
about it
and then it
afterwards.
saves you cost as well. You know, your bill's going to reduce as well. Then people put on heater and then they just forget. And other than that, you know, I think this is another public service message. I'm very sorry that
Double.
you wanted me to give one.
No, no, it's
and that
fine.
is that, you know, if you have got those, if they are not electric heaters, if you've got those gas heaters still in your house, please make sure that you do not turn them on, put them in your room and sleep, because it can be very dangerous, it can be lethal, and because, you know, fire actually needs oxygen to burn. So please make sure that, you know, all of your oxygen is not taken away, and you won't even know when you are in the ninth sky or the ninth cloud.
So you also, so keep a bit of
forbid.
ventilation if you're going to be using gas heaters. But now we have a very important subject to be discussing today. We always talk about the development and the progression of the nation,
Yeah.
but we can't do that if we're all not on the same page and we're all moving along together. One of the aspects is the social economic aspect, that people need to have financial stability in order to grow economically, in order to have social status, in order to have a better life. And there are a lot of people within Pakistan and externally who are working on this social inclusion.
And to be financially stable, I think, ladies and gentlemen, we need to work on financial inclusion as well. There are so many other people who are unaccountable for. We do not know what's happening, what's not.
Yeah, so we have gender parity, like women are excluded, the youth are excluded. So there's, you know, there needs to be a lot of awareness for that.
And I think then we can certainly even discuss about different banking practices, which does not even enable quite a lot of people to probably be included within the financial system of Pakistan as well. But other than that,
But the thing is, the National Financial Inclusion Strategy, the government does actually have one, and they are working with private and public and international and national areas.
and we have
So
got
let's-
national goals in terms of that as
Yeah.
well. But ladies and gentlemen, right now alongside us, we have been joined with somebody who's very amazing, and it's because of the fact that it was his vision which actually brought us to a point where we had to do a show on financial inclusion as well. He's the Chief Executive Officer of Karandas. He's none other than Mr. Ali Sarfaraz Hussain. Hello, Assalamu Alaikum, how are you?
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very
Walaikum
much.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Pleasure.
So let's start from the basics,
Right.
because we haven't done a show on this for a while. When we talk about financial inclusion, what do we mean?
Well, financial inclusion essentially means that every individual has access to basic financial services, which starts from having a transactional account,
Okay.
an account they can use for savings, for getting credit, and for making payments.
Okay, and so in a country like Pakistan, where you have, you know, we're a developing country, you have the rural, you have the urban, agricultural, all these things. Is it imperative for all these people to now be financially included? Do they need their bank accounts? Do they need this, or do all systems not work anymore?
Okay, so financial inclusion is critical from a macroeconomic perspective as well as a microeconomic perspective.
Okay, perfect.
McKinsey Global Institute, one of most respected consulting entities, they have estimated that in Pakistan, if the population is financially included, our GDP can go up by 6%,
Oh, wow.
which is substantial amount of GDP. For an individual, being financially included is important because once you have transactional account, you tend to save more first. Secondly, you can have access to other important services such as you would like credit at time, you would like insurance, and all these products are important.
Okay.
It is also estimated that if we start using transactional accounts, then people tend to save more and spend less. So saving is important. And then there is a huge cost of managing cash.
Okay.
Although the perceived cost of managing cash is zero in our minds, but there is a cost of managing cash. So retaining cash digitally is important, and you can only do it if you are financially included.
Okay, I will
Okay.
definitely come on to a point where I would love to know that, you know, how probably we can make people financially included. But other than that, let's talk about figures. So how much of population of Pakistan is not using banks, or, you know, they do not have accounts? So please just give us a rough idea.
Right. So in Pakistan, roughly about 100 million adults don't have transactional account.
Really?
That's a huge
So
number.
23% of Pakistanis have access to financial services or financially included, the remaining are not. And among women, the picture is a bit more dismal. Only 5% women are financially included. Now, this is very confusing, perplexing, because there are countries in the world which don't have as developed financial infrastructure as we have,
All right.
where the GDP is even lower, but they are much more financially included. Right across in our neighbors, as in South Asia, there's a big push on financial inclusion. So it is very critical and important for us.
Okay, and now you mentioned about this different segments that aren't included and the fact that women are only 5%. But this, and I want to clarify, this is not just in the rural areas, this is also happening in urban. It doesn't matter which social strata you fall into, women don't have accounts. So, so let's talk about Karandaz. So how are you guys working on getting all of this, correcting these issues? Because that's a massive problem.
You're absolutely right. Karandaz is supporting this mission of financial inclusion. You've already mentioned about government has a national financial inclusion strategy, which has a lot of different elements on which work is being spearheaded by the Ministry of Finance as well as the State Bank of Pakistan. We are supporting these efforts. The first and important way to get people to use transactional account is that if the major cash flows are digitized. So we are supporting national savings.
Okay.
We are supporting National Bank of Pakistan in the digitization efforts through grants.
Okay.
And the State Bank by putting in a very low cost retail payment system which will allow money to be sent from one account to another account, and where the cost of doing that would be very, very low or
Okay.
close to zero.
But saying that, there are reasons why people do not want to be financially included. And then obviously there are people who want to be, but they cannot bear the cost. Now, for example, talking about those reasons, I think people want to get away with the taxes they have to pay. There are people, merchandisers, there are suppliers who really want to keep cash at home because they think that the transactional cost is up and up. So where do you think the banking practices need to change? I'm sorry that I had to bring this up, but this is how it is.
No, you're absolutely right. We love cash and paper and the smell of it and maybe holding it. And then there is a fear that, if you put it digitally, it might get lost.
Yeah.
So I think what's important from a perspective of consumer is fraud protection and consumer protection. They are important areas. The second area, which is very important and you've mentioned, is having the right regulatory and taxation framework.
Yeah.
Businesses are rational when they see that the benefit of having incomes off the books, i.e. not showing it, not keeping it digital. When the cost of doing it becomes high and the benefits of actually digitizing and having those transactional accounts goes higher, then businesses will start using it. So that requires a regulatory framework around not having the withholding tax on cash withdrawals, for example,
Yeah.
or other interventions.
No, I mean, you're right. You're very correct as well, and it does have an impact on our economic growth as well if we'll have financial inclusion. But before we move on to that, for example, I think that I want you to comment on the banking services which are available over here in Pakistan. For example, if we are going to withdraw cash of 100,000 rupees, they are going to deduct 600 rupees. Now, for a vendor who actually, or for somebody who's actually a marketeer who's actually worked so hard that he does not really want to give out 600 rupees, so they find other ways and other means. Where do you think the banking needs to set their market first as well?
Now, there are two aspects on the banking sector, and you're referring to a typical branch bank accounts. Their footprint is low. Secondly, if you have digital accounts and you can transfer digitally, the fees are high, and that's why the National Financial Inclusion Strategy includes one of the elements is putting a low-cost retail payment system, and that's where the Karandaz is working with State Bank on having such a system where if you, let's say, send 100 rupee, you are not charged a 46 rupee fee, which happens now.
That's I mean, no offense, but that's kind of ridiculous. Like, that's a lot of money to be charged for just 100 rupees. Okay, now, you mentioned earlier about how bringing people in and bring them financially inclusive and the fears that they have about fraud and the money disappearing, etc. But when you have a developing nation where the education and literacy is so low, how are those people supposed to protect themselves? Because won't they become more vulnerable once they enter these systems without having that education or literacy behind them?
Well, if we look at international experience, there are countries where people are not literate, but are using financial services on mobile phones.
Okay.
In Pakistan, interestingly, we have a very well-developed communication system. So people are using mobile phones, the smartphone penetration is increasing, a lot of people are using applications,
Okay.
even those who are not very literate. So I think people are smart, generally they can count. They may not know English,
if-
but they can understand
But if so,
symbols,
yeah.
which can be used.
But
yeah.
I meant no, no, no. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the fraud aspect, or having, being more vulnerable regarding that.
The
I'm not
bank
talking about
got
their
shut down or
abilities.
something else.
Yeah, or like something goes missing and they don't really know how to go about it. So if they're in the systems, how do they protect themselves
Right.
from the system as well?
Okay. So we are fortunate to have a very robust financial system
Okay.
and a very robust regulator, which ensures that the interests of the public are saved.
That's very good. To hear.
And these technologies are quite robust,
Okay.
and there's a protection available to consumers. And that's why one of the elements which are part of the National Financial Inclusion Strategy is public awareness, to give
Okay.
them more information about it. And this week is a Digital Financial Inclusion Week. And as part of this week, we are doing a lot of communication, and we do regularly interact through our partners so people understand it. We are doing and supporting and providing technical assistance in Punjab to, for example, in an agri-credit scheme in which credit will be given through mobile phones to farmers in rural areas. And it has a very promising uptake. So once you engage people, they do learn and do understand, but it is a very robust financial system that we have in this country.
And I'm really glad you said that, because I think people actually have these questions as well. They're not
And
entirely sure.
I've got two more questions over here.
You can do one.
Yeah, let me
Kidding.
do two.
Okay, fine.
Okay, so first of all, because we have done shows on inclusive education as well and whatnot. So now, since we are talking about financial inclusion over here, don't you think it gets difficult for people with special needs, which comprises of 5% of population of our country, where some people are blind, some people cannot really walk. So we're talking about branchless banking as well. So how are we planning on getting them included within the financial system?
You are absolutely right. So there are groups with special needs, and technologies need to be developed in order to support them. So as part of our exercise, we support fintechs who come up with these innovative solutions to support those groups who are financially excluded and have special needs.
Right.
As you have mentioned, people who are blind, so how can you use voice technologies or how can you use other symbols which can help them access these services?
Now, one last question. What you have to do is that you have to look into the camera and you have to talk to every other person who's out there within the globe. We go out in 46 different countries to tell them the impact of financial inclusion on economic growth.
Right. Well, thank you. I think it's critical. Financial inclusion will not only help you improve your finances, but through digitization, with informal economy becoming more formalized, enables the country as well to grow, because once you have more money in the financial system and you are doing a lot more transactions, your cash flow history becomes available to those financial institutions who are giving credit. So it's about generating and creating more wealth and more well-being. And once that is done, that can only be done if we are all financially included.
And you can apply for the visa of any country too as well. Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank
Ali.
you so much
Thank
for
you.
having us.
Thank you
Really
very much.
important
Thank
to
you.
have you.
Pleasure being here.
And
here.
so that's important about taking the country forward, that every aspect, finances has an impact on our social life, on our personal life, on looking after our kids, etc. So you need to think about these things. We are in the 21st century, and we can't fight change. We have to go along gracefully with it.
Exactly, and since we were talking about finances, only if there will be humans, we'll have finances then. So in the next segment, we'll be talking about human development. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Good morning. Thank you all.
The ancient city of Taxila is the heart of stonework in Pakistan. This art, which has been preserved and practiced for centuries, can be seen on many major landmarks of the country. Notably, the Pietra Dura work in the Lahore Fort's Sheesh Mahal. These stone products take days to complete and require immense precision and skill from the craftsmen. The final products are perfect for souvenirs, gifts and decoration pieces, each depicting the richness of Pakistani culture at its best. Camel skin and ivory craft are trademarks of Multan's handicraft repertoire. Camel skin is cleaned, dried and mounted onto molds which can be of any shape desired. Multicolored lacquer painting is then used to ornament the molds, which in the end bear a Mughal or Persian feel. Ivory is crafted into pens, chess sets, jewelry and other accessories such as keychains by the expert craftsman. Such detailed work, while being extravagant, is indeed a feat to achieve, and craftsmen of Multan produce beauty with their work which is worthy of global admiration. The enchanting arts and crafts of Pakistan.
Book is life. Book is hope. And book is light for the future.
Welcome back, guys. And before the break, we were talking about financial inclusion regarding the social development of Pakistan. But another aspect is the human development. And financial inclusion falls into that kind of sector. They're all kind of interlinked with each other, or they're under the umbrella. But
that's what I said. If there'll be humans only, then there can be finance.
Exactly. Yeah. But the thing is, the difference with human development is that it's for enlarging people's freedoms and opportunities. Rather than just increasing the economic aspect of their life, it's increasing the richness of the human life. That's one of the definitions online.
Exactly, and then at the same time, ladies and gentlemen, quite a lot of times we do blame people who've actually left Pakistan and are working across the borders as well. But I think they are the ones who've been thinking about Pakistan the most too, on the other hand. And this is what we are going to do today, because they were breaking news, so we are cut short of time, so we're going to keep it short, but very crispy. So we have been joined by somebody who's a cardiologist in USA. He's a human development expert. It's his passion, and currently chairperson, board of directors, Human Development Foundation, Pakistan. He's none other than Mr. Muhammad Khalid Riaz. Hello, sir. Assalamu alaikum. How are you?
Wa alaikum assalam.
Thank you so much for joining us today. So we're going to start with the basic and the very generic question.
Okay.
When we talk about human development, what do we actually mean?
You know, there are many different interpretations of human development, including the development of the baby in the womb, and then the child after they are born. But I think what we're talking about here is the concept of human development as a social sciences concept. That was popularized by a Pakistani economist, Dr. Mehboob ul Haq, former finance minister. He challenged the theory that you can measure the economic development of a country on the basis of GNP and GDP and other macroeconomic indicators, and basically insisted that the only way to tell the state of development of a society is to see the impact that that development has on the lives of its ordinary citizens.
Okay.
And before we further move on to asking, different components of Human Development Index, I would love to ask about this foundation, which all the expat community within USA, they came together and they made it. What was the sole reason behind it?
There was soul searching amongst some friends on the 50th independence anniversary as to what we have lost and gained in 1997. And when we looked at the state of affairs, and especially in terms of poverty and lack of education and lack of health care, it was not a very good picture. So we researched, and in that process, I had the privilege of meeting Dr. Mahbubul Haq himself. And we actually realized that if we could model a program based on his ideas, that may be the best way to improve the state of the common man.
Okay, amazing.
And so we devised the program, and actually he was kind enough to come to the inaugural meeting and give the keynote speech on the launching of the Human Development Foundation in New York in 1997.
Amazing. Okay, so now let's move on to that. So the foundation is created, and you've been around for 20 years now. So what are the different components of it? What is this foundation working on? How are we increasing the freedoms and opportunities and improving the lives?
So what we are trying to do is to create models that can be replicated.
Okay.
And we are working at this time in 290 plus villages.
Amazing.
In Pakistan?
In all 4 provinces and Azad Kashmir of Pakistan.
Amazing.
By design.
Okay.
We chose that we will not just focus in one area. We want to actually be part of it. This is an experiment, and part of it is actually improving the lives of the people.
Wonderful.
We are trying to learn how the differences in different provinces might affect how to improve the lives of the people.
That's great.
And we are hoping, and what we've been able to achieve, if I can just summarize.
Please do.
So we have meticulous data on over 200,000 people in these almost 300 villages that's been kept for the last 20 years.
That's amazing.
We know the education and the literary knowledge of each household. We know the health status of every person in these 290 plus villages.
Yeah.
We know the...
No, sorry, I'm just giving it, sorry, continue.
Yeah, sorry. And we also monitor every pregnant woman the day she becomes pregnant till she delivers, and then the child till he or she goes to school.
Okay, amazing.
Through a very low-cost program that's costing less than $2 per person per year, we have been able to reduce the infant mortality in these 290 plus villages to 28 per thousand. Whereas in the rest of the country, it is 66 per thousand.
That's incredible. So now I have to ask you how, because this you need manpower.
Because only then we will be able to replicate the
Yeah,
model.
so how are we
actually
doing
the
this?
model is there to replicate. And
Everything's
but I
online,
can
right?
tell
You can access everything.
Yeah, and we have an office in Islamabad and in 8 other regions all over the country.
Amazing.
Including Mardan, Muzaffarabad, Lahore, Rahim Yar Khan, Chandu Muhammad Khan,
Amazing.
Karachi, and Zob. One of our most aggressive programs is in Balochistan in Zob, where we have actually built 4 small dams to help people with clean drinking water and agriculture.
Amazing.
And girls' schools in the villages.
Okay.
So coming back to, so information is there, but briefly, we use trained health workers to monitor all the pregnant women.
Okay.
I'm just talking of the infant mortality. Our
Yeah,
program, actually, I'll give you something that talks of the power of 5, which talks about the 5 components of the human development.
Yeah, please.
The basic component is the social capital.
Okay.
So every village community is organized
Upside down.
into a village development organization.
Okay, so that's the social mobilization.
That's the social mobilization.
Okay.
And this group makes analyzes their problems, and with the help of our staff, makes the decision as to what is needed to be done.
Okay.
So we are empowering them to be ultimately making their own decisions, number 1. Number 2, then we approach the area of education, health, poverty, and the sustainable environmental related issues, which are all of them important components that will give these people a better life in the coming up. So in healthcare, since we started with the infant mortality, we basically make sure that every pregnant woman is monitored because as you might know, the data has shown that the first 3 years in the life of a human being are crucial to what their future is going to be, the 1,000 days plus movement. And that starts the day the woman becomes pregnant.
Absolutely.
If she's not properly taken care of health-wise and nutrition-wise, the baby is not going to have a good future.
Okay. No, so it's so wonderful to hear all of this, and it's wonderful that that there's so much data and from so many like region, provinces, and
And I
villages.
certainly want to talk about other programs too, but we're
Yeah,
short of
we're
time.
really short of
I
time.
understand.
But there's one thing which I wanted to, very sorry, and that is that
I was literally going to ask a question, but it's fine. But
no, I just, since I had the opportunity, so I was like, I should.
Go for it,
So Pakistan is ranked on 144th right now. out of
147.
147 out of 188, right? How do you think that we can improve our Human Development Index?
So Jinnah said on August 11, 1947, when he addressed the Constituent Assembly, and I'll give you the essence of what he said. I may miss a word here or there. He said, now if we want to make this great state of Pakistan happy and prosperous, we must concentrate wholly and solely on the well-being of its masses and especially the poor.
Which we are not.
So we have to devise that strategy. Our model is such that it can be adopted very easily by the local union councils.
okay.
It is not dependent on any higher ups.
Okay, so this is what I wanted to ask you actually before I was so politely interrupted.
Thank you.
So how are the models, when you're going to these villages, how are people responding to them? Are they receptive?
They're excited.
They're excited from the beginning.
From,
and the
well,
union
we have people who
councils?
work them and we try to understand their problems and work with them.
Okay.
But once they understand how their lives can change through this,
Okay.
they're very excited and they become very active participants. That's
Okay.
essential for the success of the program.
So, but how are you trying to, how can more these union councils, village unions, or
Villages,
councils, how can they get involved with you guys? How can they reach out, or how can they get involved with making their lives and community better?
well, we do have a website,
Okay.
www.hdf.com.
Human Development Foundation, Pakistan.
HDF.com.
Yeah. And we have an office, central office in Islamabad. We have a staff of over 600 plus in Pakistan.
Wow.
They can contact our central office and talk to them.
Okay.
And ultimately, ideally would be that if we start convincing the governments, for the local body governments,
Yeah.
to start taking over the program so they can do it for their people locally.
Okay, and sorry, I've got a quick question as
Sure.
well.
Sure.
All these 600 people plus that are working for Human Development Foundation, how is this all funded? You said that these are
So
volunteer.
the board of directors, which includes people like me, are all volunteers.
Okay,
We basically donate our time,
Okay.
and we actually also pay our own expenses when we travel,
Okay.
whether nationally or internationally.
right, okay.
But-
So, but what about the
But
rest of them?
the staff is paid. We have a budget of about $2.5 million per year.
Okay, which,
About 50% is raised in U.S., mostly from Pakistani American
Amazing.
donors.
Amazing. One last thing, very sorry. One
Literally
last thing, I
have
have to
zero
cut
time.
you short over here. But HDF talking about that since 1999. What have you guys achieved so
27.
far, and what are your future endeavors?
Well, I think I explained to you
Yeah.
that
What
we
you
have been
achieved?
able to reduce the infant mortality.
yes.
In our towns, the immunization rates for children and women are 98 to 100%.
Amazing.
We have not had a single epidemic of any preventable disease in these 290 plus villages in the last 20 years.
Amazing. And the future, what do you...
And the future is what we like to do is to take this to scale and expand it to a larger territory.
Definitely.
Because that's the only way to improve. We have to realize that a sick person cannot get education, and a sick person cannot be a productive member of the society and have economic benefits.
Exactly.
Likewise, an uneducated person cannot be healthy, cannot hold a job.
Okay.
A poor person, same. So they're all very interrelated. It's an octopus that's holding us down.
Thank you very much,
And we will hopefully
Dr.
discuss this
Riaz.
octopus again with you soon. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you
and
very
it's
much.
very
You're
important,
welcome.
guys, all this
Thank you
human
so much.
development and social and financial inclusion. If you want any information, log on to our Facebook fan page.
For example, of such sort, we are going to share it on our Facebook fan page, which is with the name of
Well, this morning.
on Twitter,
Well, this morning without a G.
on Daily Motion and YouTube.
Well, this morning.
And this fabulous repeat is going to be at
11:05 p.m., 11 p.m. in the evening tonight. And we will see you bright and early on Monday morning. Have a good weekend. Be good, be safe.
Till the next time, 1, 2, 3. Good morning.